Millionaire grabs wrong suitcase at airport. What he found inside changed his life forever. A wealthy tech entrepreneur accidentally takes the wrong suitcase at the airport. Inside, he finds the heartfelt belongings of a struggling single mother. Touched by what he reads, he sets out to find her, only to discover that she and her daughter need help far more than he ever imagined. What begins as a mistake becomes a life-changing journey of healing, second chances, and unexpected family. The arrivals hall at JFK was a controlled storm of people and languages. Julian Marks stood at the edge of it all, immaculate in a charcoal Tom Ford suit, Rolex hidden beneath his cuff, Bluetooth earpiece buzzing with the voice of his assistant. "Julian, the board meeting's been pushed to Friday. You have a 2-hour slot with the investors tomorrow. Shall I move the dinner with—" "Push it all," Julian said, his tone sharp. "I'm not in the mood to see anyone." He ended the call, pocketed the phone, and moved toward the luggage carousel. It was late. He hated flying commercial, but the company jet had been down for maintenance. Just one more inconvenience in a long week of negotiations, press events, and handshakes with people who only saw dollar signs. His suitcase slid past, sleek, black, exactly like the one behind it. He reached, grabbed, and left the airport within minutes. He didn't notice the small pink unicorn sticker on the handle. Julian's penthouse in Manhattan had floor-to-ceiling windows that stared out at a city that never stopped needing him. Or maybe, he thought, it never really noticed him at all. He tossed the suitcase on the bed and undid the zipper, expecting files, his backup laptop, a travel-worn change of clothes. Instead, he found a battered teddy bear, one eye missing, a tiny, glittery pair of children's sneakers, a journal, worn, leather-bound, thick with pages. He froze. This wasn't his bag. He opened the journal. "I hope one day you'll read this and understand why Mommy cried at night, even when she tried to be strong in the morning. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'm sorry I couldn't give you the world." Each letter was written like a diary entry, signed "Love Mommy." Julian read on, page after page, losing track of time. She talked about struggle, about leaving an abusive relationship, about working 2 jobs, about a dream to publish children's books, about Zoe's laugh, her love for stars, her fear of thunderstorms. And beneath one of the journal pages was a drawing, a child's crayon drawing of a little girl holding hands with her mom beneath a sky filled with stars. Written at the bottom in shaky handwriting, "Me and Mommy are enough." Julian sat back, breath shallow. This wasn't just a suitcase. It was a life, a world, one that clearly didn't have much, but had more love in a single page than he'd felt in years. Amira, 27, was at the airport lost and found counter in a near panic. I think someone took my suitcase. It looks just like the one I have here, but this one has some tech stuff and suits in it. Mine has, oh God, my journal. Zoe's sneakers, her bear." Her voice cracked. The clerk looked at her, indifferent. "You can fill out a form. If it turns up, we'll call." Back in Manhattan, Julian couldn't sleep. He opened the journal again, flipping through more pages. One entry stopped him. "Zoe asked me what stars are. I told her stars are wishes that made it all the way to the sky. She asked if Daddy was a star now. I didn't know what to say." Julian stared out at the night skyline, the moon hanging low over the city like a half-forgotten promise. He picked up the phone. "Amanda?" "Yeah, I need to trace the owner of a suitcase. I need everything. Name, address. Now." "Perfect. Here is part 2 of Millionaire grabs wrong suitcase at airport." What he found inside changed his life forever. This section picks up right after Julian discovers the heartfelt contents of the wrong suitcase and is compelled to find the woman behind it. Julian didn't sleep that night. The words in the letters echoed through his penthouse like ghosts. "If something ever happens to me, I want Zoe to know how much I tried, how much I loved her." He read every letter. Each was dated, starting nearly 5 years ago. The mother, Amira, wrote like she was speaking directly to her daughter, sometimes with joy, sometimes with apology, always with a kind of desperate grace. In one letter, Amira wrote, "Today I walked 3 miles in the snow to take you to school because I couldn't afford the bus fare. You looked up at me, wrapped in that giant pink scarf, and said, "It's okay, Mommy. I like walking with you." And I broke, but I smiled. For you. Julian stared at the journal, then back at his phone. His assistant had sent 3 emails, one about a meeting with investors, one about a charity gala, and one reminding him to RSVP to the Monaco Tech Summit. He ignored them all. Instead, he Googled, Amira Cole missing suitcase JFK. Single mom Zoe Cole. Single mom Zoe Cole, New York. Nothing. No leads. He reached for the small Polaroid tucked inside the suitcase. A photo of Amira holding Zoe in her lap. Both were laughing. Zoe's smile was bright, unfiltered, and free. Amira's eyes held something else. A weight behind the joy. He knew that look. He'd seen it in the mirror years ago when his sister died. Julian had once known loss. He was 16 when his sister Lila passed away. An undiagnosed heart condition. They'd been inseparable. Lila wrote poetry, always carried around a notebook. She used to say, "Words are the only magic we have left." After her death, Julian hardened. He stopped writing, stopped feeling, and built instead. Technology money. Walls. He remembered Lila's last journal. It was gone now, lost in a fire during college. But something about Amira's journal felt like a second chance, like fate tapping him on the shoulder. Julian took the suitcase to his study and opened the journal again, flipping toward the back. One page stood out. It was newer, the ink not yet faded. If anyone ever finds this, please tell Zoe her mom tried. I just needed a break. Just one. Maybe someday someone kind will find this suitcase. Maybe someone will help. Below that, we live at 417 Maple Crescent, apartment 4C, if we're still there. Julian's chest tightened. He checked the address. It was in Brooklyn, about 45 minutes from him. He didn't tell anyone. He just grabbed his coat, got in the elevator, and went. The building was a worn brownstone with cracked paint and rusted steps. A man on the stoop nodded at Julian, then lit a cigarette. Julian knocked on 4C, no answer. He knocked again. This time he heard the shuffle of feet. A chain lock scraped, then a voice. Quiet, cautious. Who is it? Julian hesitated. I have something of yours. The door opened just a crack. Amira's face appeared, thinner than in the photo, eyes wary. Behind her, Zoe peeked out, holding the same teddy bear that had been in the suitcase. Amira looked down, then gasped. You have my bag? Julian nodded. I took it by mistake at the airport. I didn't look inside right away. When I did, I found your letters. Amira's eyes widened. Her lips trembled. I'm so sorry, Julian added. I didn't mean to invade your privacy, but Amira shook her head. Thank you. I thought it was gone forever. He handed the suitcase to her gently. Her hands shook as she took it. Zoe stepped closer. Are you a friend, mister? Julian smiled softly. I'm someone who was lucky enough to find your mom's stories. Amira laughed. Just a little. It was the first time her voice didn't sound scared. Do you want to come in? Amira asked. I made soup. It's not much, but it's warm. Julian hesitated. He couldn't remember the last time someone invited him into their home without an agenda. I'd like that. The apartment was small but clean. A makeshift desk sat in the corner, with a stack of books and a busted laptop. Julian noticed the cracked screen. You're a writer? He asked. I try to be. Amira stirred the soup. Mostly I work night shifts cleaning offices. The writing's just for me. You're good, Julian said. You're great. Your voice. It's real. Amira blinked, then turned away quickly. No one's ever said that before, not even my teachers. Julian sat quietly, taking it all in. The peeling wallpaper, the broken blinds, the resilience in her posture. He watched Zoe hug her bear and play with a plastic tea set. She offered him a cup filled with invisible tea. He played along. For the first time in years, he felt human. As Julian left that night, Amira walked him to the door. Thank you, she said again. Not just for the suitcase, for caring. Julian nodded. I don't think this was just a mistake. She smiled faintly. Me neither. Back in his penthouse, Julian didn't sleep again. He stared at the ceiling, haunted, not by guilt, but by the realization that all his money hadn't brought him an ounce of the kind of soul Amira carried in her broken suitcase. He opened his laptop, then he made a call. Tell the board I'm postponing the Tokyo deal indefinitely. Absolutely. Here is part 3 of Millionaire Grabs Wrong Suitcase at Airport. What he found inside changed his life forever. Julian had built companies on algorithms and precision, but finding a stranger in a city of millions? That required heart and luck. The tag on the suitcase was worn but legible, a dot Cole, no phone number, no address. Just a crumpled return luggage slip with a partially torn off address in Newark, New Jersey. He could have dropped the suitcase off at Lost and Found. Wasn't his responsibility, but something about those letters, about the way Amira wrote to her daughter, the rawness of it got under his skin. It had been years since Julian had stepped into a neighborhood like this. The buildings were aging, corners cracked, yet children played on sidewalks with chalk and sticks, and old men greeted each other from stoops like clockwork. He found the building, apartment 3B. He knocked. No answer. Knocked again. Waited. The door finally creaked open. But it wasn't Amira. It was a neighbor, an elderly woman with sunken eyes and a cautious gaze. You looking for Mimi? She asked. Julian blinked. Mimi? Yeah, that's what we call her. Amira Cole. Ain't seen her in 2 days. Do you know where she went? The woman hesitated, eyeing the expensive watch on Julian's wrist. Who are you? I found her suitcase, Julian said, holding it up like proof. It was a mix-up at the airport. I just want to return it. The woman softened, just a little. She's been going through it lately. Her daughter's been sick, and she's working double shifts. You might try the diner off Lexington and 3rd. She waitresses there. It was modest, its neon sign flickering as though unsure of its own existence. Inside, a few regulars sipped coffee. A young girl in a corner booth colored with crayons on a paper placemat. And there, balancing 3 plates with a tired grace, was Amira Cole. Julian knew it was her, the same energy from the letters. Worn but strong, he approached slowly. Amira, she looked up, startled. Yes. I believe I have something that belongs to you. He held up the suitcase. Amira blinked, recognizing it instantly. Oh my God, she glanced toward the booth. Zoe, stay right there, baby. Turning back, her voice lowered. Where did you find this? At JFK. I think I picked it up by mistake. Same model as mine. She opened it right there. Teddy bear, journal, letters. Her hands trembled. I thought I lost it for good. Julian hesitated. I read some of the letters. I didn't mean to intrude, but... Her eyes glistened. She closed the suitcase gently. It's okay, she said softly. Honestly, part of me hoped someone would read them. I don't know why I kept writing all those years. Maybe so Zoe would have something real. Some part of me, even if I couldn't... Her voice broke. Julian stepped back, instinctively giving her space. But something in him pulled forward. Zoe slept on a bench, arms wrapped around the bear. Julian listened as Amira spoke about life, about working 3 jobs, sleeping 3 hours a night, fighting eviction, Zoe's asthma, the food stamps that barely stretched a week. She apologized for crying, for dumping her life on a stranger. But Julian didn't flinch. When she mentioned the school Zoe had to drop out of because of transportation issues, Julian felt something shift inside him. He'd bought cars for employees on a whim, funded startups with 9-figure valuations. But what Amira was describing, it was survival. It was heroic. Amira looked at him like he'd spoken in a foreign tongue. You don't even know me. I know enough, he said quietly. You're the strongest person I've ever met. She laughed bitterly. Strong doesn't pay the rent. Julian looked down. I didn't always have money, but I had chances. People who helped me when they didn't have to. He met her eyes. I'm not trying to own you or buy anything. I just want to help. She hesitated. Zoe doesn't have insurance, and the hospital's been calling. I've been avoiding them. Julian nodded. Then let me start there. Julian paid Zoe's hospital bills in full, quietly, without credit. He made calls, enrolled Zoe back into her former school, arranged transportation. He met Amira's landlord and cleared the back rent, again quietly. Every time she tried to argue, he said the same thing. Let me do this, no strings. But it wasn't just about money. He started showing up, bringing breakfast, helping with school applications, teaching Zoe how to code on a tablet he gave her. Zoe adored him, called him Mr. Magic Man, drew him in crayon with a cape and glasses. Amira watched all of it with suspicion at first, but slowly, walls crumbled. One night she asked, "Why are you really doing this?" Julian paused. "Because I was lost for a long time, and that suitcase, it wasn't just full of letters, it was full of purpose." Zoe had collapsed at school. Asthma attack, severe. Julian was the first to reach the hospital. When Amira arrived, frantic and breathless, she ran straight into Julian's arms. "She's stable," he whispered. "She's going to be okay." Amira sobbed against his chest, and Julian held her like he'd known her forever. In that moment, it wasn't about money or mistakes or gratitude. It was family, the kind life throws together unexpectedly. Here is part 4 of Millionaire Grabs Wrong Suitcase at Airport. What he found inside changed his life forever. We're now deep in the emotional heart of the story, where the connection between Julian, Amira, and Zoe begins to grow in ways none of them expected. Amira was wary. When she opened the door that day in Newark, she expected a landlord, a bill collector, maybe someone trying to sell something, not a sharply dressed man in a cashmere coat, holding her suitcase like it was made of gold. "I think this belongs to you," he said, eyes softer than his tone. Her eyes darted to the suitcase. Her heart stopped. "You read it?" she asked quietly. Julian nodded. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, but I couldn't stop." Amira's shoulders dropped. Embarrassment, maybe shame. "I was going to the shelter," she said, "so I packed everything important." He didn't offer money, not at first. Instead, he asked if Zoe had eaten. "She had cereal at school," Amira said. "That's not dinner." So they drove to a diner, the three of them. Julian in his designer coat, Zoe in a jacket, one size too small, Amira clutching her bag like it might disappear if she let it go. Zoe ordered pancakes. "For dinner." "You can do that?" she asked Julian, eyes wide. "You can do anything you want," he said. "You just need someone to tell you so." He told them about Tokyo, about how airports always made him feel more alone than cities. Amira told him she'd been a teacher once, English literature. Until Zoe's dad disappeared and life crumbled beneath her feet. Zoe talked about stars. She wanted to be an astronaut or a vet, maybe both. And for the first time in years, Julian didn't want to be anywhere else. Julian kept checking in, dropped off groceries, took them to the park, fixed the leaky sink in their apartment. No cameras, no publicity. He didn't know why he was doing it. He just had to. Zoe started calling him Mr. J. Amira started smiling again. One night, Amira looked at Julian across her small kitchen table. "You know this can't last, right?" "Why not?" "Because people like you don't stay." Julian didn't reply. But he did the next day. He offered her a job. He just launched a nonprofit to support literacy in underfunded schools. He asked Amira to lead community outreach. She blinked at him, stunned. "You want me to work for you?" "No," he said. "I want to work with you." Tears welled. She tried to hide them. "I haven't felt useful in years." Julian didn't say anything. He didn't have to. Zoe got a new jacket. Amira got her dignity back. Julian, he got something else, a reason to care. He found himself texting Amira jokes in the middle of meetings, picking up cupcakes after board calls because Zoe had an astronaut day at school. He started carving time for them into his calendar like they were essential, because they were, and it scared the hell out of him. Julian was helping Zoe with homework. Amira was watching from the kitchen, her hands wet with dishwater. "You're good with her," she said softly. He looked up. "She's easy to love." "And me?" Silence. "You're harder," he replied. "But not because of who you are." She smiled sadly. "Because of who you are?" He nodded. "I don't do feelings well," he confessed. Amira walked over, drying her hands. Then you'd better start practicing. And just like that, she kissed him. Light, tender, real. It felt like being found. When word got out that Julian Marks, the elusive millionaire, was spending time in Newark, tabloids stirred, rumors swirled, paparazzi circled. Julian tried to shield them. He held a press conference, announced his involvement in community reform, praised Amira as a leader and visionary, called Zoe the brightest light in my life. But it wasn't enough. One night, Amira knocked on his door. "We have to stop this." "Why?" "Because you can walk away from this. We can't." He knew she was right, but he also knew something else. He couldn't walk away. Not anymore. Here is part 5, the final part of Millionaire Grabs Wrong Suitcase at Airport. What he found inside changed his life forever. This brings the story to an emotional and transformative close. The days turned into weeks. Julian told himself he was just helping temporarily, getting Amira and Zoe on their feet. A new apartment, groceries, a warm winter coat for Zoe, who spun around in it like it was made of stardust. But it was more than that. Dinners became routine. Sunday mornings were for pancakes, and Zoe started calling him Mr. Jules. One evening, Amira stood at the balcony of the new apartment, watching the city hum below. "I'm not used to people like you sticking around," she said softly. Julian turned to her. "People like me?" She smiled. "Rich, busy, detached. You didn't have to come looking for us." "I know," he said, "but I'm glad I did." Julian was no longer just the man who made millions. He was a mentor, a friend, a kind of father figure. And quietly, he'd started something new. A foundation in Amira's name, the Zoe Letters Project, dedicated to single mothers and children in crisis. Amira's journal, once meant only for Zoe, had now helped hundreds. Zoe ran through a garden outside their shared brownstone. Julian's idea of home had changed completely. Amira stepped out with a tray of lemonade, laughing. Julian joined them, rolling up his sleeves. And for the first time in decades, he wasn't chasing money, deals, or deadlines. He was living.